So this lecture on oxygen toxicity is going to talk about our reactive nitrogen species. So nitrogen oxide is going to form naturally just like our reactive oxygen species form naturally. And as long as your body can neutralize nitrogen oxide before it becomes a radical, then there won't be any excess damage. But again, it goes back to the balance of our cell defenses as well as the presence of these potential radicals. Now, nitric oxide is going to be essential for our body, but it also can lead to toxicity. And keep in mind that nitric oxide is a gas, so nitric oxide is able to diffuse through a cell that's producing it, such as an endothelial cell. And then it can move into another cell, such as a smooth muscle cell, by crossing the membrane. Now, as in low concentrations, this is a neurotransmitter. It causes vasodilation, it increases blood flow, lowers blood pressure. Nitroglycerin tablets are going to facilitate the release of nitrogen oxide as a vasodilator for the heart, for example. And all this is natural and all of this is normal, and our body needs to do this. Now, nitrogen oxide is going to be synthesized by nitrogen oxide synthase. You can see that here. Now, nitrogen oxide synthase, you can see, has a heme center, has FAD, FMN, has tetrahydrobiopterin, that's this BH4. And so it also needs NADPH. So all of this is sort of triggering you to think that electrons are moving here. We have movement of electrons, and anytime you have a movement of electrons, you have potential to create radicals. And so through nitric oxide synthase, through arginine, you're going to add oxygen and you're going to generate nitric oxide. Arginine will now become citrulline, and you're going to get oxidation of your NADPH. So electrons are basically being transferred from NADPH to oxygen. Nitrogen oxide will bind to heme centers. It's also going to activate signal transduction pathways through cyclic GMP. It's going to be produced and work at a very short distance. You have neuronal nitric oxide synthase, and you have endothelial nitric oxide synthase, which is going to be regulated by calcium and is going to be important for your muscles. Inducible nitric oxide synthase is going to be found only in immune cells when there is a need to generate radicals to destroy microorganisms. So even though nitric oxide is required, it can form toxins such as reactive nitrogen oxygen species. In general, there are two categories. You're going to get direct binding from iron-containing proteins, and indirect when you combine with superoxide and you form things like the peroxynitrite. Now you can see here that we have again our arginine nitric oxide synthase to form nitric oxide, again, which is fine, your body needs it. And then your nitric oxide can form a nitrogen trioxide, which is a nitrosine agent. You can also generate this nitrogen trioxide through diet by taking up nitrates. The nitric oxide can also form peroxynitrate, which is an oxidizing agent, and this can form peroxynitrous acid. And then you can have different ions formed, nitrogen dioxide, nitronium ion, etc. Now, just like the reactive oxygen species, reactive nitrogen species will cause lipid peroxidation, inhibition of your electron transport chain, damage to DNA, etc. All right, so nitrogen oxide, similar to oxygen, can react with iron. Major sites of attacks are going to be the iron sulfur center, so this is going to be electron transport chain. The complexes 1 through 3 all have iron sulfur centers. We also have iron heme proteins such as hemoglobin We also have the electron transport chain cytochrome. We also have complex 2, which has a heme B center as well, so there are heme centers in the electron transport chain. Now, nitric oxide is very low in concentrations, and your heme centers with iron are high, so naturally there is minimum damage by nitric oxide. However, at high concentrations, nitric oxide becomes very toxic. And so you're going to get damage. You can do nitrating, nitrosylating, addition of nitric oxide to proteins, to lipids, etc. We have the peroxynitrite, which is a strong oxidizing agent as well. Peroxynitrate is going to be stable, similar to our hydrogen peroxide. It's not itself a radical. It does not have a free electron, but it is toxic. Nitric dioxide will initiate lipid peroxidation, and nitric dioxide can also come from external sources. Nitrogen trioxide is going to nitrosylate sulfur hydryl groups, and you're going to have the lipid membrane again be an important target for these radical nitric oxide compounds. So reactive nitrogen oxygen species, similar to reactive oxygen species, are going to be associated with neurodegenerative diseases such as Parkinson's and chronic inflammation like rheumatoid arthritis. If for whatever reason oxidation of your immunoglobulins are going to enhance their ability to bind to their target in rheumatoid arthritis and cause deposits into joints and the pain associated with rheumatoid arthritis.